Good morning. Good morning, distinguished guests, dear colleagues. Very glad that you have all found your seats. To warmly welcome you all and to open the 8th Vienna Migration Conference, allow me to present General Spindelegger, Director General of ICMPD.
Mr. Vice President, Ministers, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, let me welcome all of you in these wonderful premises of Palais Niederösterreich in Vienna for the 2023 Vienna Migration Conference. It's really a great pleasure that you all are joining us here, but as well online. I think we have about 600 people watching us at the moment, so please be careful what you are saying. But starting this conference, I would like to express that these are very sad days. We are still under the impression of the terrible events that took place last weekend in Israel and in the Gaza Strip. Our thoughts and condolences are with the victims of these horrible attacks, with their families and friends. Violence and war are on the rise in our world, with increasing impact and velocity. Also, the world of migration moves faster with every year that passes. Migration experts and policymakers have to move faster too, to keep on track with the developments and prepare for the difficult decisions ahead of them. On a global scale, we are faced with the largest levels of displacement since the end of World War II. In Europe, we record the highest numbers of asylum seekers and irregular arrivals since 2016. On a daily basis, we experience the effects of growing political instability, rising living costs, and natural disasters linked to climate change. We experience the effects of the war in Ukraine and of the worsening situation in many other crisis regions. We also experience the effects of demographic change, technological transformation and imbalances on our labor markets. But we also see that the will for cooperation across borders and regions becomes deeper every year, that partnerships on migration become stronger, and that new and innovative ideas show that a better and less contested future on migration governance is possible. Discussing the future is the main task of a conference like the VMC. Before we do that, allow me to say a few words about the past. ICMPD has turned 30. What a wonderful age. I would like to be it again. And we had really a lot of opportunities to look back upon our history and the history of international migration policy, together with many of the friends and partners that have joined us along the way. And this review led us to three main conclusions. The first conclusion was that our migration policies are in a much better state than we often tend to think. When we read the news or observe the comments and debates on social media, our understanding of migration, our tools and instruments, the intensity of regional and cross-regional cooperation, and the quality of partnership have reached levels nobody could have imagined 30 years ago. But, and this was the second conclusion, we do not always see that progress. We do not see it because the challenges seem to become bigger and events seem to develop faster. We should not forget about our achievements, because they give us the confidence we need to address the challenges of today and tomorrow. Our third conclusion was less positive. Our ability to communicate strategically around migration has not seen enough progress. We still do not manage to really explain what we do and why we do it to the public, to the media, to our citizens and voters. This makes us vulnerable to polarized debates. And it is a fact that it diminishes the space that we need for comprehensive and forward-looking migration policies. Migration is complex and highly contested. We all know that. There are different realities, different perceptions, different interests, and different positions on migration. Migration brings us together, but often it also drives us apart. It is my strong conviction that the best solutions are always the ones that bring us together, that are based on a shared understanding, on joint aims, and on a spirit of respect and partnership. Nobody can succeed by doing it alone. Nobody can succeed when not respecting the needs and realities of the others. And nobody can succeed without getting the message across to the public, the media, and the people. It is these essential requirements towards migration policy and migration diplomacy that we want to discuss during the next day and a half. I think that the VMC provides a unique opportunity for doing exactly that. Thanks to all of you who engage with us, the VMC has developed into one of the most important international platforms for high-level discussions on migration in Europe and beyond. It is good to welcome so many of you here again today. Like every year, we want to emphasize open, inclusive, and frank discussions. And we want to provide space for networking, personal meetings, and informal exchanges. To this end, I have the honor to welcome so many outstanding speakers today and tomorrow. Thank you for joining us here in Vienna, and I invite and encourage everyone to join the debate here in this impressive hall. I very much look forward to our discussions. Last but not least, I'm very grateful that also this year a number of institutions are supporting us to organize this event. I would like to sincerely thank ORS, the Organization for Refugee Services, and the City of Vienna. Your support is crucial for the successful organization of this conference. And now I have the honor and special pleasure to welcome Her Excellency Susanne Raab, Federal Minister for Women, Family, Integration and Media of Austria, who will share with us her views on the key aspects and key priorities of the migration policy agenda. Minister Raab will be followed by His Excellency Attilla Toros, President of the Presidency of Migration Management of the Republic of Türkiye, to open the conference on behalf of current chair of the ICMPD steering group. Ladies and gentlemen, I sincerely hope that you will enjoy the 2023 edition of the Vienna Migration Conference. And now it is my pleasure to hand over to Susanne Raab. Thank you very much.
Dear Director General, dear Michael, Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, Mr. Vice President, dear colleagues, fellow ministers, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, good morning and a very warm welcome here in Vienna. It is really a great honor and a privilege to welcome you on behalf of Austria, one of the founding members of ICMPD in 1993. What started out back that year with only 2 member states, Austria and Switzerland, has turned out to be an indispensable international organization in the area of migration, now active in more than 90 countries worldwide. A personal note, personally, I first encountered ICMPD in 2010 when Austria began to reorganize and restructure its integration infrastructure. I worked as an expert in the field of integration in the ministry, and at that time we basically started building new integration structures on the green field. And we in the ministry were eager to learn more about migration integration. ICMPD was a great knowledge hub for migration-related topics. We were hungry for facts in that field, and we found it with the experts from ICMPD. So I would therefore like to extend my warmest congratulations on its 30th anniversary. This significant milestone not only represents 3 decades of unwavering dedication, but also symbolizes an exceptional collaboration that mirrors your collective commitment and passion for addressing migration challenges on a global scale. ICMPD has extensive experience in bridging the gap between theory and practice, and I think this conference is really a good example for this capability. You bring together experts in theory and practice with decision makers and of course policy makers. We try to discuss new ideas and assess recent and future developments. And I'd like to add, it comes at a really perfect time when the necessity to take decisive action is more urgent than ever it has been in the field of migration before. I was also asked to give you a short overview on the Austrian situation according to migration. So I would start by telling you that on the one hand, we are facing vast numbers of irregular migration in Europe, but also, of course, in Austria. The Russian war of aggression against Ukraine, for one, is responsible for millions of displaced persons in Europe since February 22. And of course, knowing what countries like Poland, Moldova, and Romania had to manage in terms of receiving and accommodating displaced persons, I want to add that Austria, too, has registered more than 100,000 people from Ukraine since 2022. And as of now, of course, we all know that no end of this brutal, devastating war is in sight. And, Director General, you mentioned it before, the massive and brutal terrorist attacks by the Hamas last weekend. Of course, as you said, we cannot see the impact this will have on the global migration flows yet, but what we know and what is for me important to point out is that we stand in close solidarity with Israel, condemning the devastating acts of terrorism by Hamas. Coming back to the situation of migration in Austria, we face one of the highest numbers of asylum seekers in Europe, both in absolute numbers and per capita. We are a country of 9 million inhabitants, and we had to cope with about 400,000 asylum applications, asylum seekers, since 2015. With 112,000 applications, excluding people from Ukraine, last year even marked the highest number of asylum seekers since 1956, which was the year of the Hungarian crisis. A number which is significantly higher than in the peak year of 2015. So I have to say that the numbers this year are decreasing, also due to international cooperation with international partners we really appreciate. But still, this puts great pressure on the asylum system as a whole, but also constitutes an enormous challenge for capacities in terms of integration, the field where I am responsible for. Migration and integration are two sides of the same coin. And the key principle, or one of the key principles, is that the success of integration also depends on the numbers of people coming at your country at one point of time, and also, of course, depends on the level of education and the level of skills the people bring with them. Just to give you one example, 7 out of 10 refugees who attended a German language course last year needed a literacy course. Half of them weren't even literate in their mother tongue. So we really have to start with education on a very basic level. And the truth is, it needs many years, maybe even a generation, before refugees will successfully succeed in the labor market and in other fields of our society. I mean, let me be totally clear on this. Austria has always lived up to its humanitarian obligations and will, of course, continue to do so. At the same time, we must find common European solutions to control irregular migration, also to support our friends from Greece and Italy who face enormous challenges at first receiving countries. And as you, my colleague, Dimitris, pointed out from Greece, pointed out yesterday, we must destroy the brutal and bloody business of the human traffickers, the smugglers of human lives. We cannot leave it up to them to decide who gets to Europe. The recent compromise reached by the European Ministers for the Interior is a very important step in this direction. I want to specifically thank you, Margaritis, thank you as Vice President for your role in making this agreement possible. However, we must do even more if we want to succeed in controlling irregular migration, and by that maintain social cohesion in all our countries and in Europe. You are all working in the field of migration, we are all working in this field, and we all know once there are no simple solutions. Migration is a very complex topic, and even if there are parties who tell us that there are simple solutions, there aren't. It's hard to work in the field, and I really appreciate every single reaching out and every single cooperation between us as international community and also on a European level. And then not only talking about refugees coming to Austria, ladies and gentlemen, on the other hand, many countries, including Austria, are desperately in need of skilled workers due to labor shortage in crucial areas of our economies. We therefore must be open and attractive for skilled migrants who have also different needs in terms of integration services as, for example, people coming as refugees. We need to think about integration from the outset to improve the process and encourage skilled migrants and their families to stay also on the long term. I just came back from a short trip to Canada, which can function as a role model in this regard. So we know that migration is a varied field, and we must be very clear in the distinction we make between irregular migration and also migration into the labor market. We therefore need to look closely at the different types of migration in order to provide also tailor-made measures to successful integration. But we must not forget our countries, and Europe as a whole is not alone. We're not alone in the world, and in order to shape migration, we need partners in other parts of the world, in Africa, in Asia. We have to take the countries of origin into account and their struggles and needs, for example, also the kind of brain drain they are facing. Therefore, for instance, migration partnerships will be crucial. And we know that ICMPD, as I have mentioned before, is an invaluable partner in this regard, as bridge builder, a vital platform for dialogue, as well as also an operating partner on the ground. So finally, I again want to thank ICMPD, especially Director General Michael Spindelegger, for organizing today's event in Vienna and for also giving us the opportunity to connect, to discuss further opportunities and further solutions of integration and migration together. We really need substantial solutions. I wish you all a pleasant stay in Vienna and, of course, a fruitful conference. All the best.
Distinguished Vice President of the European Commission, distinguished Austrian Minister for Women, Family, Integration and Media, distinguished Director General of ICMPD, distinguished ministers, valuable representatives, esteemed participants. First of all, I would like to greet you all respectfully on behalf of myself and the Minister of Interior and the Presidency of Migration Management of Türkiye. I'm happy to take part in this conference, which will be a platform for sharing expertise in the field of migration in a versatile manner, and here we will consult with stakeholders who make comprehensive contributions to migration management. I would like to thank the ICMPD Director General and the ICMPD team for bringing us together for this event. I would like to start my speech by extending the greetings and success wishes of our Minister of Interior, who is unable to attend this conference due to his busy schedule. As the representative of a country that has experienced all dimensions of migration and developed exemplary models with its experience, I would like to briefly talk about our migration management and cooperation mechanisms that we support the development of. Dear participants, our recent experience has proved that the importance of a sustainable migration management is increasing due to political and economic instability, conflicts, and climate change around the world. Due to our geographical location and our socio-economic political stability, there are intense migration movements towards our country. Turkey, with the comprehensive migration management understanding that it has built, is aware of the developments in our region and the world and considers migration as an issue that needs to be well managed through versatile capabilities. As you know, Turkey has been the country hosting the largest number of refugees in the world since 2016. More than 3.2 million Syrians under temporary protection are currently living in Turkey. In addition to Syrians under temporary protection, more than 280,000 asylum seekers of different nationalities are also in our country. Both Syrians under temporary protection and other refugees have access to basic rights such as education, healthcare, employment, and other social benefits. Dear participants, in addition to the establishment and management of a comprehensive international protection system, due to the economic and social contributions of regular migration, our country has developed policies and practices that encourage regular migration, particularly in the labor market. The number of foreign nationals arriving in our country legally for reasons such as education, health, employment, and staying with a residence permit has exceeded more than 1 million. Our country, located on an irregular migration route, manages regular migration on the one hand and combats irregular migration with effective methods on the other. Our basic strategy in the response to irregular migration is based on an understanding that starts with reducing the challenges triggering migration in the country of origin and ends with reintegration efforts in the country of origin again. This context, efforts are made to support the development of our stakeholder countries, in particular the source countries of irregular migration. I would therefore invite countries of origin as well as destination countries to come together on platforms where they can enhance migration cooperation and intensify their efforts together with the private sector and civil society on how to further support the development of countries of origin and how to mitigate the issue that causes migration. This is what our ICMPD 2023 Presidency, whose main theme is focusing on durable solutions in countries of origin, emphasize. In this context, I would also like to share with you that the National Voluntary Return Mechanism established under our Presidency is implementing projects based on social development in countries that are the origin of migration. Dear participants, one of the most important components of our response to irregular migration is effective border management. As a result of this holistic approach, in September, we have added coordination border management to duties and authorities of the Presidency of Migration Management. As a result, these developments, physical and technological measures taken at our borders and interinstitutional coordination have been raised to a higher level. This holistic approach will strengthen border management on the other hand, overall migration management on the other. Within the scope of the fight against irregular migration, effective apprehension, deportation, and voluntary return activities are also carried out within the country. Our country's determination in its fight against irregular migration has gained increasing momentum, especially in last months. However, the phenomena of irregular migration requires regional and global cooperation beyond the efforts of a single country. With the understanding our country is leading the active implementation of international mechanisms such as the term chairmanship of ICMPD, involvement in Budapest and Almaty processes and Global Compact for Migration. On the occasion of this conference, I would like to draw your attention to another important issue related to our understanding of cooperation. Our country would like to broaden the basis of all the cooperation established by working together on solutions such as third country resettlement, voluntary return, and joint project implementations to be implemented in the countries of origin, rather than being based mainly on financial support. In the context of durable solutions, I would also like to underline that we will continue to work towards the normalization of living conditions in the secure zones to ensure dignified, safe, and voluntary return of Syrian refugees to their home country. In particular, it is important for the international community to support the provision of the rights of Syrian refugees to rebuild their lives in their own country and return to their country as a priority. In this context, I would like to emphasize that we are aiming for cooperation, in particular by initiating a strategic dialogue process to create durable solutions for Syrian refugees in the medium and long term and the necessary conditions for their implementation. Distinguished participants, as I have already stated, we will continue to expand our national and international cooperation to transform joint efforts towards effective migration management into lasting and durable solutions. I would like to share with you that we would like to continue, and in this framework, we will start working with ICMPD by establishing an International Migration Cooperation Center in Istanbul. Through this center, we will work together with public institutions, private sector, civil society, and universities. In the management of the migration phenomena, which will obviously continue transforming into different dimensions in light of current developments. I would like to conclude my speech by expressing my views on the current policies of migration management in our country and the main elements of the cooperation we would like to build with you. The construction and management of migration mechanism should focus on realistic and long-term solutions. Each country, regardless of its geographical location and its ability to benefit from migration flows, must play its part in finding solutions. Identified solutions should be implemented simultaneously and complementarily in different countries, not only in a few countries, but also through joint work along the migration routes. Develop policies and strategies for source countries to eliminate the factors that trigger irregular migration. Provide effective protection to persons in need of international protection and undertake special protection efforts for vulnerable groups. Migrant smuggling and trafficking in human beings should be tackled jointly as part of effective border management efforts. The socio-economic responsibility for migration should be shared in a balanced manner. Channels of communication should be kept open, and our cooperation in this area should be enhanced. Cooperation should not only be periodic, but should be more systematic and broadened to include all relevant stakeholders through new mechanisms to be established. I would like to thank all of you for participating in this conference and wish you success.